Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang dhammang sanghang namasami. Okay. So here we are, afternoon. Some of us have had lunch. Yeah, we're maybe settling in for afternoon practice, which is, I don't know for you, but for me is always tangibly different than morning practice. You know, the energy is going in a different direction, yeah. But it can sometimes be the more relaxing of the two in a strange way. Because I usually give myself more space in the afternoon. I'm usually less assertive, and if the mind is going to zone out for a little bit, I let it zone out, and then once it's coming back around, then I start directing it. And yeah, I find this often leads to scenarios where I'm a little tired, or my knees are a little sore, or it feels like it's forever. You know, we've been sitting forever. And then I catch myself thinking these thoughts. And in catching myself, I find some sort of place of being okay with it. And then, then I'm good. And then that actually becomes pleasant. Yeah. So the theme of the day is emptiness. And what came up during the morning for me was just a real appreciation of this process, yeah. And as we were talking about it before we broke for lunch, how it's really just like all other meditation, yeah. You have to keep doing something. You know, it's like you have to keep reminding yourself, like, don't fill this space. Now there you are trying to fill it. Just don't fill the space. And after a number of repetitions of this, of catching yourself doing something, it's like, well, look at me. I'm like I'm looking for something in my meditation. I'm trying to make something happen. And just having that encouragement this morning, don't do that. Yeah, let things empty out. Yeah, it was actually quite nice as it was starting to work. Yeah, and it's like, wow. And in any other scenario, I would have kept trying to have that particular experience, or I would have kept looking for the breath in that way. But I was deciding to let all of those expectations kind of drain away, and it became I can't say empty, but less busy, less full. Yeah. I think what is worth talking about now is, what is emptiness then? You know, what is this experience? And as I was saying, you know, there's this understanding we get pretty early on in practice that we are our own worst enemy. Yeah, we we're making our own problems. Yeah, we're the ones that are complicating things. We're the ones who are resisting things. We're the one who is taking issue with people, with scenarios. We're the one that's filling the space. It's not anybody else. You know? And what are we filling the space with? Well, you know, actually, in the Heart Sutra, which is one of the first instances I can think where emptiness kind of makes the shift into, being a categorical teaching all on itself. We have, form is emptiness, feelings are emptiness, yeah, perceptions are emptiness, mental fabrications are emptiness, consciousness is emptiness. Emptiness is form, yeah. Emptiness is feeling. Emptiness is perception, emptiness is mental formations, emptiness is consciousness. There's this idea that the five aggregates are empty and emptiness has the five aggregates within them. And that's about as much into like the Mahayana end of this teaching as I can really get, because that's about all I know. But that it also holds up. It's like we know the five aggregates, yeah. That's basic, Buddhism 101. And this is what we can see arising. And the Buddha points these things out because before we have a framework to a lens through which to view the world, we have to take our stories as reality. Yeah, we don't have any choice. We grow up and we have to develop a sort of immune system against certain situations and scenarios and people. We have to learn how to make choices and see, okay, that thing is bad, that thing is good, that's to be avoided, this is to be pursued. And we create all of these stories, and we have experiences. We get into certain situations, we eat certain things, we do certain things, um, we take certain things, and we have certain experiences, and then they feel good or they feel bad, or you know they're just, it's just, that was just a thing, it's no big deal, not worth paying attention to. And this is our experience. This is what our experience is filled with, the five aggregates. Yeah. As we start to catch these and we catch our mind taking these seriously, we can unravel that and you say, well, okay, this is a feeling. I don't have to do anything about it. And you say, oh, I'm perceiving the body, yeah, but I'm also creating this idea of form. And form is not a given, right? That's one of the things that believing in emptiness and pursuing emptiness will kind of teach us, is that our objective decisions about what my body is and how my body feels and where my body is and my relationship to my body is all created. Yeah. It's layered on top of the actual experience of the body, which, yes, you don't, I mean, you can have an experience of your shoulder, but you don't know where the shoulder begins. Yeah. That's an extra thing that you layer on top. And it's like, well, it starts here or it starts there. People who know me know that one of my main meditation subject is, the body parts. And so that's something I've looked at extensively. Yeah. It's like, if you really got into the nuts and bolts and the muscles and the bones, it's like, what is a shoulder? I have no idea what a shoulder is. Yeah. And then that's what you arrive at, is like the whole concept is a sankhara. It's an idea that is useful. The idea is functional, right? That we have a shoulder. It is the moving part, it's the joint between the arm and the body, and it bears a lot of weight. It performs a lot of functions. It has a huge, arc of motion. So it's not a useless concept, and yet it does create suffering from time to time. And the suffering we have based on my shoulder hurts, or I think I've injured my shoulder, or are my shoulders too big? Is this the wrong look? Should they be up? Should they be down? All of that is dependent on the idea of shoulder, the sankhara, the concept of a shoulder. None of that can exist without saying there is shoulder. Shoulder is mine. Shoulder is important. Shoulder gives me pleasure. Shoulder gives me pain. Yeah. All of those things are dependent on starting with an idea. Emptiness, when we start to see that as a useful thing, is this concept that we don't actually need to be doing that. And it takes a bit of faith at first, right? Because we have never not done that. Or if we ever, obviously we're not always thinking about our shoulder. Obviously we're not always thinking about that person or this situation, whatever we experience that creates a lot of thinking and suffering in our life. It's not always going on, but do we notice when it's not going on? This is something that you have all mentioned at different times, and as practitioners we begin to notice. We can't instantly say what it is that's gotten better, but as we've practiced over time, we notice things have gotten better. Yeah, we have discipline, and we never used to have discipline. We have calm, and we never used to have calm. We have even things like gratitude, appreciation, faith, generosity, kindness, compassion, and none of these things, even we even had a concept that they were possible until we started practicing. And then somewhere down the road, we realized, oh no, wait, I'm feeling sorry for that person. Think I think I'm I think I'm feeling compassion for that person. That person isn't even nice to me, but I'm feeling compassion for them. This is amazing. I'm a bodhisattva. This is like it's working. It's the eureka. It's working. Yeah. And this is us recognizing, oh, there was a suffering, but it's not here right now. Emptiness is like this. We're putting a word on something that is a non-concept. If we go looking for emptiness and we try and find emptiness in our body, we will never find it. All we will find is form, feeling, perception, mental fabrications, and consciousness. That is all we will find. We will not find emptiness because that's not how it's experienced. We have a word for it, but the actual experience of emptiness is the space between those five aggregates, yeah? The absence of those five aggregates. So what is that? What it is this a koan or something? Like what is there when the five aggregates are not present? Well, that's a funny thing. Yeah. Yesterday I was asked the question, is sukha the opposite of dukkha? And um, y'all get it. We're used to the lingo. Yeah, it was like, oh, that's a good one. But for anybody who might come across the recording in some future time, sukha being pleasant experience, which we often relate to meditation, and dukkha being suffering. Yeah, a very important part of Buddhist philosophy. Is happiness the opposite of suffering? And I said, wait, you can't really do that. And Buddhist philosophy has a different perspective on happiness, yeah? And so, whereas in the world, we usually think of ourselves as suspended between these two extremes of pleasure and pain, in Buddhist philosophy, we turn it on its end and we say, your happiness is proportional to the amount of suffering that has subsided, yeah? There is suffering, and that is making you unhappy. As that suffering decreases, you are happier. Yeah. So it's not one or the other. It's that as you become relieved of suffering, happiness is present. And since everything that's not suffering or the cause of suffering is within the category of happiness, you can't pin happiness down to a single experience. I mean, sukha is happiness, yeah? Sukha being a blissful, settled, happy bodily feeling. But piti, enthusiastic, rapturous joy is also happiness. Tranquility is happiness. Light is happiness. Concentration is happiness. Equanimity is happiness. All of these things fall in the realm of not suffering, and therefore they are our definition of happiness. And we also experience this in meditation, right? And it's a kind of empty thing when we are not distracted for the first time. For the first time, we've been following our breath, and suddenly we're not. We're not getting distracted from our breath, but our breath is remaining with us. Uh, it's a sort of like, is this really happening? Like, this is what they talked about. This is fantastic. I'm not distracted. This feels wonderful. But does it? We realize that it feels wonderful because we're so very used to being distracted. And that when we for the first time are not distracted, it's just rapture. It's better than rapture. It's the best thing. And we're so certain that this is what the Buddha was talking about. Yeah, this is that mindfulness. This is awesome. I want this forever. So I'm never going to leave the breath now that I've found it. Of course, it doesn't work that way. We fall off our meditation object. We get interested in something and go off and pursue it. But that sense of applied thought, yeah, applied and sustained thought, when we first have that experience, is non-suffering and therefore is happiness. And it's also empty. It's empty of any tangible, permanent reality. Yeah. Our happiness is empty of permanence. And we don't realize that that's the definition of why it was so happy, because it flowed, because it wasn't stuck, because it wasn't static, because it wasn't coarse, heavy, um, sad, like all of the things that are suffering in our lives. It wasn't that. It was the opposite. Yeah, he was out in that realm of not stuck, not a problem, not heavy. Yet, yet it has no form. We can't point to it, but we know it when it happens, right? So as I was kind of clearing out the mind, yeah, and again that was a process of catching myself, trying to add things and stopping myself and looking at that and saying, well, just don't do that. And be like, but how are you going to have mindfulness of the breath if you don't find the breath? And I'm like, just trust, yeah? Just stop looking for the breath. Just stop saying the breath is there, or the breath is there, or the breath is there. Stop saying it feels this way or it feels that way. Just go with it. Yeah. Just let go. Let it clear out. Is what I found. Suddenly my attention was coming outside of my expectations. And there was light. There was joy. There was interest and energy. And I'm like, oh, this emptiness thing there's really quite a lot in here. I think that's something we can start to look for and we start to appreciate is the word is almost as though it's pointing us at a void. And if we are coming from the side of suffering, if we are coming from the side of there's too much going on, then nothing going on sounds great, right? But once we start to get out of being overwhelmed and we start to get closer to this point of division, yeah, this where the mind actually lets go, we start to see that we don't need there to be nothing to be happy. We don't need to have nothing going on to be free of suffering. Yeah, it's actually quite a bit can be going on, and as long as we're not clinging to it, as long as we're not holding to it, as long as we're not identifying and objectifying it, it's fine. It's good. And this is that interesting experience that again we won't be able to look for, but we'll know when we're having it. So what is it like to empty the body out? And it's a really curious thing as a student of the Pali Canon. So in the Buddhist time, they had all of these phrases, these sort of like I don't know what else to say except pop dharma. It's like they had their own version of this. They had these phrases that were probably whole traditions or whole thoughts. In the same way that you can pick up a book by a particular Dhamma teacher and it'll have like The titles are so provocative, yeah. And it's like start where you are, and you're like, yes, this is the Dhamma. This is the secret. I've got to start where I am, yeah. Or hmm, I bet I was really on a roll, but something there just totally got me off track. But maybe that's as much a teaching of emptiness as anything, yeah. That whatever whatever point I was trying to make, when you really let go into the to flowing with things, you realize that's your whole life, yeah. Is whatever was happening 10 minutes ago was already gone. So there's only two possibilities: is you can hold on to it and try to carry it with you, or you can just be in the present moment. And that's, do you call that oh, thank you. That's what I needed. Pop Dharma during the Buddha's time. Yeah, but there was this phrase, and it was very simple. Yeah, it was dwelling in an empty hut. Have any of you heard that before? Yeah, no. But in the Buddhist time, it had a meaning. Yeah, and we don't really technically know what the meaning is, but the monks have a rule that says you can't claim to be dwelling in an empty hut um, if you're trying to imply that you're enlightened and you're not, right? So it had some really profound meaning, emptiness, being empty, yeah. But the way that they would say it back in the day was like, no, I'm in an empty room, yeah. And it was like this metaphor for I'm not here anymore, yeah. All of this that you're seeing, there's nothing inside, and that meant something to people, and it wasn't synonymous with enlightenment per se, but it was synonymous with a particular experience of, I'm not creating me anymore. And so there's just this it's just this shell where the aggregates used to be, and but there's nothing in it. And it's very curious how easy it is to receive things from that place, yeah. How easy it is to see the person across from you when you are not holding on to anything, when you're not bringing anything with you, when you are empty inside, there is room for anything. How easy it is to be okay with an experience. And it could be something that otherwise is very frustrating, is very unnerving. And you can see everybody around you starting to get upset. And you probably all can immediately think, oh yeah, I know that experience. Yeah, when you're in a room and everybody's just like, oh, I can't believe they're doing this again. And you're just sitting there and you're like, yeah, of course they're doing it again. They do this all the time. Why should I get upset about it? And that's emptiness, yeah? You're empty of anger. You're empty of frustration. You're empty of annoyance. And the room is not. There's plenty to go around, but you are empty. So you can receive what's going on around you. You can receive everybody being annoyed, receive everybody being frustrated, receive everybody being, um, deluded, receive whatever's going on, and it doesn't stick. Yeah, it just flows through in the same way that you've been letting your form, feeling, perception, mental formations, and consciousness just flow through. Everybody else's form, feeling, perception, fabrications, and consciousness also flows through. Yeah? And that is happiness, yeah? That is tangible, not suffering. But you can't hold on to it. The most you can do is let go of it. This is the only chance you've got of continuing to have that experience, is to just keep letting go, keep letting it flow through. And so I may be way off the mark, if you were to stack this against, centuries, millennia old, progressive teachings on emptiness. But for me, this is what it speaks to, and what I see in my own practice is that emptiness doesn't seem like a far off thing, but it seems like a natural thing that comes about through the very processes that we do in meditation. Yeah, it seems like if we keep up with the mindfulness, if we keep up with the letting go, if we keep up with the stopping the five hindrances and cultivating applied and sustained thought, then we are going to have this experience where there's nothing going on. We're not carrying anything. And I think I hear people all the time talking about having these meditation experiences where they're like, it's like my body wasn't there. And I'm like, it never was. Yeah. As you perceived it, it never really was. And so it's attainable, yeah. And we can even learn to look for it. And I think once we learn to look for it, we learn to see it. And once we learn to see it, we're really strengthening our relationship to the third noble truth. Yeah, we are learning how to realize the absence of suffering, and that is basically learning how to be happy. In it, in a nutshell, that's what happiness is: the absence of suffering. Yeah. And most people who are in pursuit of getting something to be happy will never realize how accessible happiness is. It's the possibility is always there. It's just recognizing the absence of the suffering. And when we recognize where that comes from, then yeah, we start to do it more often, more regularly. Yeah, letting things go, letting things flow through. And somebody was saying that this it's in terms of pop dharma. I'm trying not to get lost as I say that. It's very pop dharma to do these meditations that are, what are they, discursive or non-directional awareness. They everybody creates a new name for it, and it's basically like not directing your mind and just noting what comes up. Yeah. There's all these ways of doing it, and I say there's a way that can be productive, and there's a way that can not be productive. And it's like if you are able to let your mind go and it doesn't roam outside of the general area of mindfulness that you've set up, then that is totally useful. And what you will find is that that kind of meditation will incline towards emptying out. Yeah, because you're not adding anything. You're not even adding any sense of, I want this to happen, or I want mindfulness of this. You're just like, I'm gonna note everything that comes up and let's go, let go, let go, let go, let go. Yeah. It's the same thing you're doing. Same the theme of the day, yeah. Empty out and then notice. Notice emptiness. Because I mean, you don't have. It's great. You don't have to look for a complete void to arise in the middle of your meditation. If it does, great. Way to go. But I think instead, what you can just look for and start to see is space, even a little spaces, yeah. But more and more, that will become a big space. Big spaces that can tolerate um, substantial, yeah, there's a lot of not suffering, yeah? A lot of not creating the causes of our suffering. So with that, why don't we begin the afternoon part of our meditation session? So we'll be able to sit and walk. And if you are sitting and you'd like to offer um, the the vision of you sitting and have your video on, I commend that. I know it's very easy to like, no, nobody needs to see me like scratching every 5 seconds. But it's like, but actually, it's helpful, I think, for all of us if somebody is around and you see that, oh, they're sitting too. It can be a supportive condition. And again, like this is extra. This is a bonus. To set aside a day for meditation retreat is commendable, and yeah, it's a bonus if you offer that to others. Let others know that, well, not in a like look at me, but in just like, yeah, okay, they can watch me like scratch and wiggle and like fall asleep I don't care. They at least know I'm trying. That can be inspiring still. Yeah. All right. And we'll come together about 10 to 5. So that being 5 p.m. Eastern. And we'll just kind of wrap things up at that time, yeah, if you're still around.